Welcome back to ESBR Boxing. My name is Greg. I'm delighted this afternoon to be joined by the two Elliots, Double L and Single L. We are in big fight breakdown mode. Fight we're going to be discussing today is the WBC World Middleweight title fight on the 22nd of February. That's between the champion Carlos Adames and Hamzah Sheeraz. Guys, great to be joined by you both as always. Fight that we're looking forward to. Elliot, is this one of the ones, sorry, I should say Elliot Greg, is this one of the fights on the card that you're looking forward to the most?
No, this is one of the fights on the card I'm looking forward to the most. I feel like, especially with Hamzah Sheeraz, I feel like, it's been sort of time coming to get a sort of world title shot like this as well. So for me, I'm looking for a bit of a breakout. Obviously, good victory over obviously Austin Williams. Obviously, flattened Liam Williams is probably past his best, but the Tyler Denny one, I'm thinking probably a bit of a step back, if anything. And I think I'm not looking forward to getting right up there, world honours. I think he's a fighter that's made for this. Frankly, I think he's a world champion in waiting. So I'm looking forward to seeing that coronation. Hopefully, but I wanted to give my pick away too early.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Elliot, same for you. A fight that you're really looking forward to on the card.
Yeah, look, of course, look, it's the best. It's the best card of all time, isn't it? That's not an exaggeration. And we could debate all day long what's the best card, what's the not don't want to say the worst fight on the card, but yeah, this is one of the really exciting ones for me. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think yes, it's going to be a really good fight.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, guys. Elliot, so I'm going to stick with you. That's a question I'm really interested to hear what both of you guys think, because I'm of the opinion that I think this is a big step up for Hamzah Sheeraz. But the question I'm going to possess to you first, Elliot Stott, is do you think that this is a few levels above anything or anyone that Hamzah Sheeraz has fought when he steps into the ring with Carlos Adames?
I I wouldn't say so. I think Austin Williams, I really rate highly. And he kind of really dominated him in that fight last year in the 5 versus 5. So, look, would Austin Williams beat Carlos Adames? Quite possibly not. I'm not sure, but I really just personally rate him as kind of someone who could possibly be a future world champion. And Hamzah Sheeraz, in my opinion, beat him up and then stopped him towards the end of the fight. When you take that victory away from Sheeraz's records, I'd say, look, there's not kind of bad fighters there, but there's not necessarily kind of world level fighters there. At the same time, I just think Hamzah Sheeraz he's still so young, and he's just been managed in a way to look quite good whilst kind of progressing himself up the rankings. So yeah, for me, it's that key Amo Williams victory that's really key on Sheeraz's record that stands him in good stead for this fight.
Yeah, it's a very good victory. It was one that I don't think we expected him to dominate quite as much as he did against Austin Williams. Elliot, Greg, same question to you. Do you agree with Elliot Stott? Is it not that much of a step up for Hamzah, or do you think, yeah, it's a few levels above?
I wouldn't go a few levels, but I would say it's a step up. Yeah, I do think it's levels above where he's been. I think Amo Williams for me has almost got the same kind of profile as Hamzah Sheeraz in a way. Like if you look at his record as well and go, okay, maybe he needs a couple of big wins on there. Like he's almost been fighting fighters that are below that kind of world title level as well. Whereas you look at Adames, you go, okay, he's got Derevchenko on there, it's not a bad win. I think it's that, but it's slight, I suppose increase in test. But for me, it's also the occasion as well. Like you're fighting for a world title here as well. Like you're not fighting for British or Commonwealth, that sort of stuff. This is a world title shot for you on a massive card. If you can come out and flatten the Adames here, then that's making a big statement, frankly, and that's leading you to big fights. So it's not only the sort of slight step up for me in quality, but also the massive step up in what will be occasion and possible attention that he'll receive should he win this in good style.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point you make there. I think the reason for me, I think it's a couple of steps up, is because one of the most bizarre records in boxing is Derevchenko's record, because you look at that guy and you think, right, come on, you've won 14 and lost 4, etc. at the time or what have you, but he's a really, really good fighter. He fought the best in the division or roundabout. At that time, he fought everyone. So yeah, see where both of you guys coming from. Interesting stuff. The next point I want to cover, both guys can really punch in this fight. Really high knockout records. Elliot, Greg, I want to stick with you. Do you think both guys are going to be wary of just the power that both possess, or do you think that they're going to come out round one and get right down to business?
I'd be surprised if they came out round one down to business, but I think if you're Carlos Adames, you're looking at the size of Sheeraz, frankly, and the power. I think, to be honest with you, I think Adama's probably a bit more wary of Sheeraz's power than the other way around. But I do think, obviously, we've seen Sheeraz, people mention that Bradley Skeet fight as well, where he seemed to be off the mark a bit. You've seen him where he's, the capacity to get sort of hit as well. And I think, it's a difference getting hit against the likes, like you say, of Adama, who carries power, and the likes of sort of, Tyler Denny. So I think in a way you've got to be respectful of it. But I do think, in a way, I think that Sheeraz is the more powerful of the two coming into this one. I really do. I think, you look at like recently, he's coming off TK, I think what 5-6 TK at least on the spin. So against decent fighters, whereas Dharmas, you've got that UD coming off the UD against Terrell Gusher there as well. So I think for me, in a way, I think the momentum of Sheeraz and the sort of way that he's handled Ammo Williams, as Stotty said as well, will be a concern, frankly, for Carlos Adames more so than I think the other way around.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Elliot, Stott, same question to you. Do you agree with Elliot? The reason I say will both guys be wary of the power? Some of the names, for me anyway, that Carlos Adames has been in with, they're better than the level that Hamzah Sheeraz has been in with respect. So we do expect some of these fights probably to go to points, and we don't see many people hurt. Derevyanchenko, for example. Is it a fight that you think both guys will be aware of each other's power as well, especially early doors?
It's a really tricky one, because I just think Sheeraz, if you look at Sheeraz's last 3 fights, when he's just blown away Tyler Denny, blown away Liam Williams, and eventually blown away Austin Williams, I just think his confidence will be sky high. And I'm not saying that Liam Williams past his best, Tyler Denny not world level, but 2 very tough men, and he just wiped them out in 1 and 2 rounds respectively. And Ammo Williams, I personally would have him as kind of a fringe world level fighter, and he's got to him eventually as well. So it's interesting how Sheeraz approaches this fight, if I'm right in his confidence being that high. However, Sheeraz knows he's up against a better fighter than perhaps he's fought before, and a big puncher, as you guys have mentioned as well. So I do think there will be a tentative start to this fight for the first 1 or 2 rounds, but not for much longer, in my opinion.
Interesting. You've actually brought us to our next point, which is probably the one that I'm most excited to hear about from you guys, because I think it's a really, really fascinating fight. Elliot, Greg, I'm going to go back to you. How does Hamzah Sheeraz win this fight? Does he have to box early doors and then maybe look to sit down on the punches round about the middle of the fight, or does he come out and does he assert himself early?
I think to be honest, I think he could do either. But if I'm advising him, I'm saying keep it long for the first part of the fight. He's got height, you'll have height and reach advantage. I think that you don't necessarily need to come out and start trading with the Dharmas. Obviously, you've got, like I said, taking the occasion. Obviously, if the opportunity presents itself, I think you could stop him. Obviously, we've seen he's got power. But for me, I'd keep it long, first sort of maybe 4 or 5 rounds, to be honest with you, and then I think start sitting down from there. I wouldn't come out and trade with him really, just because you don't want to. Like we said, we've seen defensive frailties in him a little bit before. He's still very young as well, obviously, and one of the downsides, the disadvantage, I suppose, of blasting people out early is you haven't really got that many rounds in recently either. So you're sitting there going, don't take that sort of confidence that you've got and turn it into complacency, really. So for me, I'd box sort of intelligently, maybe for the first half of the fight, and then maybe sit down after that. But obviously, it would depend on I suppose, on how Adames fights as well. But I think Sheeraz will know he'll have the power to potentially hurt him, but doesn't necessarily need to go chasing it early, in my opinion. Just use your physical advantages, frankly, for the first half at least.
Yeah, do you think that Sheeraz been hurt previously in his career? Do you think that'll be on his mind and might make him a little bit more cautious, knowing that he's in with a really proven world level fighter?
I think it should do, yeah. And I think you said it before many times. I think you're spot on here. I think like fighters, when they fight nervous, perform better. I think he needs to almost fight nervous. I think he needs to, like, you know what I mean, sort of switched on and kind of, I say, don't turn that confidence into complacency, but really sort of treat this is a massive fight for him. Really, it really is. If he goes, if he loses it, obviously he can come again. He's still a young guy, but if he wins it, there's obviously massive fights out there for him as well. So I think, I think he will fight nervous. I think he will be aware of the occasion. He will be aware of the fact that he's been hurt before as well, and I expect him to kind of box. Not negatively, but smartly and intelligently, at least for the first half, until he maybe stings, Adames, and maybe sees how his power sort of is being received there. But I think, just use your physical advantages, keep it long, keep out of the way, and then maybe step it on in the second half.
Absolutely. Elliot Stott, same question to you. How do you think Hamzah Sheeraz wins this fight? Do you agree with Greg, or do you think a separate tactic will work for the big man?
Size. I don't want to say blown away. But when I've interviewed Hamzah Sheeraz once in my life, and I couldn't believe how tall he was. I'm fairly tall myself, and he was kind of looking down. He was looking down on me. I know Elliot Grigg. I know BoxRec says he's 6'3". Trust me, he's a bit taller than that. He's more. He could be 6'4", maybe even 6'5". He's a beast. He's a beast of a middleweight. He's got incredibly long
He's looking up
arms.
at me, pal. I'll tell you that. That's for certain.
I was going to say that.
7 foot tall Elliot Grigg, but I can't remember what the phrase is, but didn't someone once says he's got a jab that could reach someone from the other side of the street? He's got these kind of stupidly long arms, and I also think there's been a lot of talk about him in his future, and he's said himself he's not going to be at middleweight for much longer. I personally think Sheeraz, he'll definitely be at super middleweight, and I'm confident he'll be a light heavyweight as well. Adama's, on the other hand, when I was doing my research into this fight, started his career at welterweight. 30 years old now, so you don't know if he's going to fight above middleweight, possibly not. So I just think that's key. One thing I'm really looking forward to in this fight is the weigh-in and how both fighters look on the night. And I just do think there's a chance Sheeraz, when it comes to the first bell, he's going to look significantly bigger than Carlos Adama. So I think that's a key here, kind of the size and reach for Sheeraz.
So you're basically saying that you think early on Hamzah Sheeraz should maybe box, keep it long, use his attributes, and then, is what Elliot Grigg said, maybe around about the middle of the fight, second half, start to plant your feet a little bit, try and see if you can take the power.
Yeah, I think so. I think yeah, I think those are good tactics. Look, Adama's he's lost one fight, but he's never been stopped. So I'm not kind of an expert on his chin and how well he can take a punch. So we'll see. But I think Sheeraz is kind of quite possibly the most powerful middleweight out there. So I expect him to kind of test that chin in the first half of the fight.
I'll tell you what's funny. See, every time I come to speak to you guys about a point, Elliot Stott leads on to it perfectly. The next question, I'm actually going to stick with you, Elliot Stott, here. I feel that you are quite a big Sheeraz fan. Don't know why. I get that vibe. I've got it for a while, which there's nothing wrong with. I think he's a very, very good fighter. Say he wins this fight, or whoever wins this fight, is he the number one middleweight in the world? Obviously, we've got Janibek there. We've got a couple of good fighters that are coming through top 10. Janibek, for me, is probably number one. But I think I've heard both of you guys. I'm not going to put you under the bus, Elliot Grigg, but I've definitely heard you, Elliot Stott, saying that you think that Sheeraz potentially beats Janibek. Are you going to stick with that? Is he the number one middleweight in the world if he wins?
So a bit of a non-answer. I think Janibek still has to be number one, just because he's done more at the weight. He's done it in better, more emphatic style, and the belts he holds, and he's held for a little while now. So I would still have him as number one. However, if you were to look, I'm hoping we get, if Sheeraz does win this fight, he fights Janibek next. And if I think Sheeraz would beat him personally, I know it's a big call, it's a big shout, but yeah, I think Sheeraz would beat Janibek and then definitely be the number one himself.
Fantastic stuff. Elliot Grigg, I'm really excited to hear what you're going to say, because when I asked that question, I seen the grimace on your face as if, yeah, good question. Is he the number one middleweight? Or even if Adames wins this, are we looking at the number one middleweight in the division at the end of this fight?
Yeah, you know what? It's going to sound a bit like I've plagiarised Stotty's notes, but I actually agree with everything he said there. I think you have to just because he holds the belt, etc., and he's obviously been in World War title fights. I think you have to say he would probably edge it. But if they were to fight, which hopefully they will, there's been a lot of noise, isn't there, around that, especially from sort of Sheeraz and his camp. That I think I would actually back Sheeraz to win that fight as well. Again, size, as I said, just so big. Like, how long would he stay at middleweight? I don't know, but I think the size again, and if you had the world title as well, the confidence of him flowing through him, I'd actually back him to win that fight as well. So I would have him sort of number one in waiting. But I'd have to see if on paper I'd probably have to still lean towards Janibek, to be honest.
Fantastic stuff. Right, guys, final point that I'm going to come to, Elliot Grigg. I'm going to stick with you because I'm going to take notes for the prediction league based on what you say here. So, yeah, I want to know how this fight goes, and I want you to be as precise as you can be. I'm not going to settle here, guys, for who wins the fight. I want to know how they win. So, yeah, Elliot Grigg, take it away. I want to hear what you think.
I think I'm going to go Hamzah Sheeraz, and I'm going to, unlike what Stotty said about, I like what you said about Adama's not having been stopped, but I think Sheeraz is going to hand him his first stoppage loss here. I think I'm expecting it to be second half of the fight, though. I think he might, I think he'll box sort of intelligently, maybe keep it long, but I do actually think he might get sort of seriously hurt at one point. And I do expect him to sort of come through some trouble, but I think down the stretch, I think he'll sort of round sort of 9-10. I think he might put the first stoppage on Carlos Adama's record. So I'm going Sheeraz KO.
Fantastic. Elliot Stott, do you agree? So Greg has said he thinks maybe around about 9 or so, Sheeraz will catch up with Adamez. What do you think yourself?
So I think the most when you look at the card, it's obviously it could be quite a long night, and I know Elliot Grigg's quite concerned about getting to bed at a decent time. So I think we're all hoping for an early KO here. It's going to be a long night. I'm hoping it's we're looking at potentially kind of a 1 a.m. or so finish for the entire card to finish if a lot of these fights go the distance. So really hoping for an early stoppage, and that's my prediction as well. I'm going for Hamzah Sheeraz to win this fight round 4. Nice and early. I think could be interesting. Sheeraz could get wobbled himself. I think it could be kind of a bit of a firefight. Could be fight of the night as well. But yeah, not got a huge amount of reasoning, I'll be honest with you, but I'm going for Hamzah Sheeraz to win this fight round 4.
Interesting stuff. I think I agree with both of you guys. It's a hard fight for Hamzah Sheeraz, a lot harder than I think a lot of people are giving the fight credit for, but I'll probably just slightly more side with Greg in terms of I think that he might just take his time with him and break him down. But with Hamzah Sheeraz, you don't know. It could come out and he's that powerful. It could be all over and around, and it doesn't make Adam as a bad fighter. But guys, that's really fascinating stuff. Absolutely buzzing to talk about this big fight breakdown. So that's the 22nd of February. Hamzah Sheeraz, Carlos Adamez, the WBC middleweight title. Elliot Stott, Elliot Grigg, thank you so much for joining me. If you guys have a difference of opinion or if you guys want to add anything, please comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and we will speak to you guys again soon. Thanks, guys.